We're going to be kickstarting the show with our hashtag Africa Focus feature. This is a part of the show where we look at some of the biggest, most pressing stories that are making the rounds on the African continent. And I don't think there's any story that is more pressing than the war in Sudan, which is once again under the global spotlight. This time, this after the World Health Organization hospital was reportedly bombed. And we're going to be unpacking more on that and what you need to know about it. It's essentially a World Health Organization hospital where around 64 people, even more, including children and medical staff, were killed. The strike has not only claimed lives, but effectively shut down a very, very critical health facility. And this unfortunately deepens what is already one of the world's worst humanitarian crises. This comes after the Sudan's war, now entering its third year, if I'm not mistaken. It's again the biggest and most pressing, I think, issue on the African continent, and many people, even organizations like the World Health Organization, are calling it the biggest humanitarian crisis on the African continent. And we're going to be looking at the implications of it. We're going to be looking at what's the latest on that front. We're going to be looking at what you and I need to know about what needs to happen for Sudan to have peace. It continues to devastate civilians. It continues to displace millions and cripple the country's healthcare system, as I mentioned, with hundreds of attacks on medical facilities already recorded. So we're going to be unpacking all of that, and we're joined by journalist and political analyst, a very good friend of the show, Ramadan Ahmed Birima, to help us unpack the latest developments. Brother Ramadan, Assalamu alaikum. Jazakallah so much for joining us. Always a pleasure.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Brother Salelo. I'm very happy to be with you.
No, we're happy to have you on the show, and I think we'll jump right into it with a bit of a scene setting and also your immediate reaction. Just how significant was this latest hospital attack in that hospital when you look at just the broader context of Sudan's civil war at the moment?
It is very unfortunate, very unfortunate that hospitals and public facilities have been the target of strikes. This time it happened in rebel-controlled area. The army has issued a statement yesterday or the day before saying that they have nothing to do with it, and they have never targeted hospital, especially in rebel-controlled areas. It happens that leaders of the RSF, that is rebel, Rapid Support Forces, RSF, sometimes the leaders, they hold their meetings in such places. The theory that is roaming around is that given the conflicts within the RSF itself, and some of its leaders are very angry over the top leaders, and like it is likely, or they said, that some of the dissidents of the RSF must have launched drone strikes against those who are in hospital, given that in some of the battles, the RSF used to kill its own soldiers who are wounded just to get itself rid of the burden of taking care of them, because sometimes they don't have the facilities to take care of the wounded, so they end up killing them. So what is going around at the moment is that there are so many those who are wounded in that hospital, and because they don't have any kind of care for them, so that's why they had to strike it. But irrespective of what happens here, don't forget, Brother Salelo, that the city of Deleng and Kadugli that have been taken over by the government forces, and these two cities have been besieged for the last 3 years, and people all lost their lives. So once the government took over these areas, Now the RSF started striking hospitals. This is something that we don't hear at all. Are you?
Yes, yes, yes. I'm still here, and I want to touch on that exact point that you're making. The targeting of healthcare
Sorry.
facilities, because the World Health Organization has
Yes.
verified the fact that you're making, that hundreds of attacks on healthcare facilities have been happening. Are we now seeing a pattern where medical infrastructure is now becoming a deliberate target for the RSF?
No, definitely that is the case. Actually, over the last 3 months, especially in Dereng and Kadugli, almost all the medical facilities have been completely destroyed. Schools, hospitals, and all the public facilities have been destroyed in these two cities. There is another city, which is Al Ubaid city, also has been receiving a lot of air strikes. I mean, these drone strikes, especially in the marketplaces, the citizens' houses. It is indiscriminate kind of strikes that claim the lives of many citizens. And I think the media is not shedding light on this because the perpetrators are the RSF. And RSF is fully sponsored by certain sectors that are well known, unfortunately. So that's why when RSF does all the kind of atrocities, very, very little light is shed on it. But when there is any kind of crimes which might be at the source might not be known, they connect it to the army. The Sudanese army has been avoiding hospitals in the rebel-controlled areas all the time, and they have never targeted any of the hospitals, Fashir or in Jenena. In fact, when the rebels they took control of Al Fashir, they went into the hospital and killed all the staff and all the patients, all of them, unfortunately. And this was highlighted in the media in a very shy manner. It was supposed to be highlighted all over the world, but unfortunately, that's not the case.
Very, very concerning indeed. There's just another element which I got note of. The fact that there's the prospect of a renewed war in northern Ethiopia between the government forces and also some of the Tigray factions. There are talks that particular war could ultimately filter or factor into neighboring Sudan. Can you maybe unpack that element for us, how these two conflicts could ultimately merge and in what way could they merge?
It is very unfortunate that the Ethiopian government has been collaborating with the RSF in a way or another. And while you are talking to me now, yesterday there was the attack against Al Kurmuk city, which is in the border post between Sudan and Ethiopia. The rebels that attacked that town were backed by Ethiopian forces, unfortunately. All of them came actually from inside Ethiopia. So what happens at the moment is, beside the Tigray rebels, there is also the Oromo. And a lot of the situation there is very volatile at the moment in Ethiopia, despite the fact that Ethiopian government entered into an agreement, I think 6 months ago, with the Tigray group, Tigray Liberation Front, that is TPLF. And unfortunately, it looks like the agreement didn't go well, and the rebellion broke out again. So Ethiopia needs to collaborate with Sudan, the government, in order to curb the insurgencies on both sides. So instead of supporting the RSF, the government also, Sudan can support the Tigray militia, which is not the case at the moment. But I think as the situation escalates, it's most likely that the rebels on both sides will be funded and both countries will be suffering. So I think Ethiopian government needs to take an initiative and try to chase away all the elements of the RSF in its state territory, so that Sudan shouldn't be forced to give a hand to the TPLF.
Very, very concerning. I think that's a state of affairs nobody wants to see. But just in closing, Brother Ramadan, we just come out of the holy month of Ramadan. Where do you see things currently when it comes to the two warring factions? If you can give a quick analysis on the trajectory of the conflict at this current moment, and who exactly is gaining ground if there's no stalemate that we can talk about.
Do you mean in Sudan?
Yes, in Sudan at this current moment. Just a quick snapshot analysis.
Okay, I don't think the word two sides does not apply to the case of Sudan, because in Sudan there is a rebellion, a small group of which was it's a paramilitary group which was part of the army. It was assistant of the supporter of the army. Unfortunately, it rebelled with the support of regional forces. And the regional forces, of course, are supported by an overseas source. So what happens at the moment is the Sudanese army, backed by the Sudanese people, fighting these rebels, which are heavily supported by the United Arab Emirates. The good news is that the United Arab Emirates now is busy with itself with what's happening on in the Gulf region, with the Israeli-US attack on Iran, and the response that came from Iran, that attacking all the military bases in the Gulf region, including the United Arab Emirates. In fact, the United Arab Emirates has been involved in so many wars in Yemen, in Syria, in Libya, in Sudan, in everywhere in the Arab world where there are problems. You find the United Arab Emirates is involved there on behalf of the Zionist regime. So at the moment, the United Arab Emirates now is busy with itself, and this might hold the support that is going to the RSF, which allows the Sudan government or the Sudan's army to do its best and regain all the areas that are under control of the RSF. And I think at the moment, while you are talking to me now, the government, the army is doing very well on the ground. Just for your information, the areas that are recaptured by the government, the citizens return back and continue their life normal, unlike the areas that are taken over by the RSF, where people fled these areas and looking for safety somewhere else. So I think the situation at the moment is in favor of the Sudanese people and the Sudanese army, while the RSF actually is doing what it does as a kind of desperate behavior because of the support that have been held.
I think going to leave on that note, we have unfortunately run out of time. Brother Ramadan, Jazakallah so much for joining us. Always a pleasure, and hope we chat again soon. Salam.
Shukran, Jazakallah khair. Shukran.
There we go. And with that, we've come to the end of our hashtag Africa Focus feature, shedding a light on the concerning state of affairs out in Sudan. More than 60 people have been confirmed dead this after an attack, a drone attack at a World Health Organization hospital. And I think it's a very, very concerning state of affairs. Sudan is a story that we continue to follow quite closely here on Salam Media, considering the fact that it has been announced by reputable organizations that this is the biggest humanitarian crisis on the African continent right now, so it can't go ignored. And with that, we're going to take a quick break. News and views will continue after this.
Rejuvenating media day by day.